I love my profession. I'm crazy about dogs. I love what I do. I'm passionate about the people who feel the same way I do. But my profession has a stale smell. It smells rotten. It's unbearable. Since we started our work on social media, there's an average of 50 direct or indirect attacks towards me, towards my person, in terms of abuse. And it's something that has never bothered me, which can sometimes be tough to handle, but it's part of the game you're playing. And it was a necessary part, because when we entered social media in this world, the conversation was incredibly polarized. And Mari and I made a decision early on in social media where we were completely at ease with the work we do. For those of you who don't know us, with the work we do, for those of you who don't know us, Mari and I have a shelter with 70 dogs that aren't ours, that are functions and abandonments from a lot of people, that at some point in their lives, their mouths have swelled up to say that they love their dogs more than their families. And the shelter is funded solely and exclusively through the education, outreach, and communication work we do with our knowledge about dogs. That is to say, we could, like some shelters in northern Spain, from where we just rescued a dog that had 3 veterinary reports favoring the euthanasia of that dog, because people had no idea how to work. But then we could do like they do, and aim to manage one of the public shelters as an association and access a budget of over 400,000 euros a year. And then put my cousins and all my buddies on the payroll, working, without having a damn clue about what they're doing. And so, since there are dogs that bite us because we have no damn idea what we're doing, we euthanize them. So, that's not who we are. We fund the shelter, us and all the dogs. That this costs around 4 or 5,000 euros on average per month. That we, I repeat, fund with the educational work we do based on the knowledge and experience we have. The allegations of abuse, I've always taken them as people not really understanding the consequences of the word. Because if someone really thinks that we mistreat dogs for using not leashes that aren't slip leads and aren't choke collars, then if I were that convinced, I wouldn't hesitate at all to file formal complaints. When someone accuses someone of mistreatment, if you're sure about it, that's what you should do. To file formal complaints. When someone accuses someone of abuse, if you are clear about it, that is what you should do. I have always wanted to think that people did not fully understand the magnitude of the consequences of the word, and what they simply wanted to express on social media from the comfort of their couch at home was that they did not agree with my way of working, and I think that's great. Not all opinions are valid when the consequences of your opinion have an effect on the well-being of a living being. If you like cars more than motorcycles, then that's great. For me, because those cars and motorcycles are constantly parked and only start moving when you plug them in. Now, if your opinion is going to have an effect on the well-being of an animal, of a living being, then we need to be very careful with our opinions, and we should have control tools so that not all opinions carry the same weight. When it comes to the well-being of an animal, of a living being, then, we need to be very careful with our opinions, and we should have control tools so that not all opinions carry the same weight. To justify this kind of conversation, in my head, in the end, I separate them into professionals and pseudo-professionals. I guess the difference between a professional and a non-professional can't just be because there's an incredible demand in a certain sector. In this case, the canine one, because there are 9 million dogs in Spain. There are more, and there's a huge number of dogs with problems. What can't happen is for people to become professionals. After searching online and buying a course from a university with a name that sounds familiar to you, American, with the cross of Caravaca stamped on it, and for which you pay 1,300, they give you a degree from a university that doesn't even exist. And just like that, you're a dog trainer in obedience and a behavior modification technician. Plus, you know first aid techniques, and you have to include therapy assistance. And there's a bunch of pamphlets that are the same in all the courses. And here, the feeling I sometimes get is that there seems to be a conflict among a sector of those who call themselves professionals, where we all agree that if we don't offer anything, all the people looking for help with their dogs, they go from one place to another. We're not helping them, we're just taking their money. Meanwhile, no one says anything. All of this keeps running, and we keep milking the cash cow. They go from one place to another. We don't help them, we don't lend them a hand, and we take everyone's money. As long as nobody here says anything, all this works, and we continue to exploit the goose that lays the golden eggs. I repeat that the professional canine world in all its disciplines has people of a very high professional level, and also the pseudo-professional world. The canine world is full of snake oil salesmen and carpet sellers who have just stopped by a gas station. And right next to that, they found a book with Pluto's face and Goofy's face. And right next to that, they found a book on how to sell self-help to desperate women on the verge of a nervous breakdown. And they found a book with Pluto's face and Goofy's face. And right next to that, they found a book on how to sell self-help to desperate women on the verge of a nervous breakdown. And without even getting into methodologies and theories yet. In a few months, I'll do my part to contribute in any way I can. In this conversation, I would say there are easy ways to distinguish between a real professional and a pseudo-professional. For example, a professional who focuses their conversation on the tools of the trade has no clue what they're talking about. This video is going to be complicated. I've been trying not to make this video for years. But in the end, there's just no way to make sense of it. If someone still hasn't realized that focusing conversations on the tools is a way to polarize the discussion. To write to you, like in Disney children's stories. Who's the good guy and who's the bad guy? To tell you that those of us who do this are the good ones, and that, like you, we love our dogs a whole lot. Simply to capitalize financially on a market niche to exploit. And, as I told you at the beginning, I receive accusations of abuse monthly, in dozens, and lately there's been an excessive number of attacks. With the words of abuse towards people around me. Or even people who have nothing to do with me, but who might visually seem like they have something to do with me. In the human capital of the people who are part of that first generation of professionals is going to take the base method to different cities in Spain, like Lograno, Barcelona, Madrid, Ciudad Real, Alicante, Granada, Jaén, and so on. I'm not going to allow it to be questioned because those professionals come from different personal backgrounds. But all of them have a genuine passion for understanding and helping dogs. Because there are people who have gone from having problems with their dogs to levels that are monumental. And nowadays, they have the opportunity and the ability to help people who are going through the problems they once faced. Within that team, there are people who came from other professional disciplines and have switched their career paths. And sometimes you can understand that it's complicated to reconcile what you previously had in your head. Like, for example, that I must be an animal abuser because I don't use harnesses. With the fact that I don't use harnesses. And I have a body of visual graphic work from years back, where it's impossible to catch me. It's impossible to catch me. Abusing a dog, choking a dog, giving the dog a physical correction. Or whatever you want to call it. Abuse is literally impossible, but more so, because of the shelter. More than 2,000 have passed. People in session. And I invite anyone to find a person who has seen me work, who has been here. And who can say that I abuse dogs, that I hit or that I'm choking, or whatever you want to call abuse. This is a public invitation. At this point, I feel free to set aside that educational, inclusive part. That we really are, to activate another way, in case of repeated attacks on the human team that is part of our project. Because I've been keeping receipts for years, And I've been keeping receipts for years because this dog professional community in this country, it's very, very, very small. And that means that in the end, we all know each other here. And at those levels, I understand that it has to do with the social responsibility of having a large number of followers. And this is something that I take very seriously, because it's a responsibility to have people following you and giving you their trust. A level of validity to what you say, simply because they don't have more information or knowledge. There are 3 types of people in this world: professional and sedated professional. Here, there are people who love dogs, there are people who love money, and there are people who like validation, recognition, and social credit. In order to increase the public's knowledge about dog culture, I proposed that we sit down at a table, representatives from different methodologies, to try to have a genuine conversation in which the result was that the audience had the ability to listen, process the information, and make an informed decision about what makes sense. How can I help my dog have the best possible well-being? And if that's not possible, because it's not enough, people who are comfortable sitting down and putting all their cards on the table and having a conversation to compare theories, methodologies, and practical effectiveness for the sake of well-being. If that table can't be set up, which is really tough, I'll sit down with anyone. A 3-hour conversation is dedicated to this. And I would like to, but I believe that it's the group representing positive reinforcement in Spain that we should sit down and talk. And just like with evidence training, it's the same with sports training. Just like with working dogs, security and protection dogs, or with working dogs from national state agencies. I have worked and actively work with people from all those disciplines. We can all go work together. We can go anywhere to see if the methodology is transformable. We can go work anywhere, with any dog, using any tools, and have the conversation while working with dogs. Okay, I get the feeling, and maybe it's just me, that we only share stories and books from other people, and then we ask you, do you want to become a dog expert? Do you want to know how to solve your dog's reactivity? Dogs. Do you want to know how to train your puppy? And I have the feeling that it's all just pure sales marketing because I don't see you working with dogs. And you only have games with chips. I would prefer that we have the conversation while working with dogs and being able to read dogs in real time. Because reading dogs and reading about dogs in dog language is day for Peppa. I mean, it's amazing the videos we get from people with hundreds of thousands of followers that we don't understand. How can they actually believe what they're saying? I mean, there's no way to even start untangling the ridiculous nonsense they throw out, passing it off as dog language. So, no one here has realized that we've reached a point where we're selling you something. You shine lights with words and place them next to each other, and your dog steps on them. And you start imagining that your dog is putting together sentences and structuring them grammatically to communicate with you. We're not realizing that we've reached a point where there are animal communicators who claim they're saying they're talking to your deceased dog and that the only reason he barked a lot at home was because he didn't like his name. And now we call Mike, and now he's happy and resting peacefully, and we haven't realized that they've created an industry here. From rugs, treats, rewards, toys, chew toys, balls, that just a couple of days ago didn't even exist and that have never had anything to do with the dog's well-being. But now it's absolutely necessary. And all you have to do is stimulate your dog cognitively and intellectually through their sense of smell. And within our part of the conversation, there are a lot of people who tell me with all the love in the world, Alberto, they're not going to let you. It's worth millions. I'm in love with my profession and I'm in love with the world of dogs. But I don't recognize my profession.